Most definitely, this is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Migwi. Let me pose a question to you. When was the last time you wrote a letter and sent it via post office? Well, today we are talking about the current state of the Postal Corporation of Kenya, and in studio with me is Postmaster General John Kipyegon Tonui, ready to talk to us about the state of the Postal Corporation of Kenya. Karibu sana to the studio.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so very much.
How are you doing this morning?
You are doing well.
Yes.
You're doing well.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe to start with, what is the mandate of the Postal Corporation of Kenya?
Yeah, thank you. The mandate of the Postal Corporation of Kenya, first is the Postal Corporation of Kenya is established by an Act of Parliament of 1998. And two, it's supposed to provide accessible, affordable, and reliable postal services within the country and also in the world.
Mm-hmm. So, talk to what is the current state of the corporation as we speak now?
Yeah, the current state of the corporation so far is, I can say, is fantastic in the sense that currently we operate about 5 products. That is mail services, we have courier services, we have financial and agency services, and the assets management system. Basically looking at that in terms of the business and revenue streams, we are looking at the mails providing 1.2 billion Kenya shillings in terms of revenue, where courier is providing about 2.04 in the last financial year, and the agency services gave us about 80 million Kenya shillings, while assets alone gave us 208, giving us a total of 3.6. In terms of the state, we can say is stable, and we are optimistic that definitely Postal Corporation of Kenya will go places.
So that is part of the products that you have?
Yes.
And talk about the distribution of the last mile delivery of goods. How has it been so far?
Yeah, thank you so much. Distribution, of course, I know, looking at the advent of technology, this is an area that has been affected so much because looking at the volumes, it has gone down from what it was before. Initially, we were looking at a revenue of about 2.4 billion Kenya shillings in terms of revenue that comes out of it. But now we are looking at 1.2, which means we have lost about 60 to 40% of our revenue in terms of the distribution. What does it mean? We have actually gone ahead in terms of improving the courier part of our business. That is now giving us roughly around 90% of our revenue, which is able to compensate what initially we were getting through the traditional mail, which we are now moving to the courier side of our business.
You've also partnered with e-commerce entities. Talk a little bit about that and talk about its impact in terms of how it has helped in generating revenue for the corporation.
Yeah, thank you so much. In terms of there are business opportunities in Kenya today, you must have heard about the president in terms of launching the digital hubs, coming up with the digital economy and so many other things. E-commerce plays a very critical role in terms of the expansion of the postal industry going forward, not only in Kenya. And what we are doing currently is we are trying to ensure that we improve and come up with an e-commerce platforms that will be able to be a marketplace for Kenyans that today you can do. Of course, we are looking at Kirinyaga. The rice that is available in Kirinyaga should be available to somebody in Turkana through our platform, and that is the e-commerce platform. We also are in talks with Amazon so that we can do the last mile for them within our business space.
What about network? The Postal Corporation of Kenya has over 600 postal outlets in the country.
Yes.
Are they still operational or some of them are closed?
Yeah, initially we had about 1,000 postal networks within the country. But because of the profitability index that we looked at, we reduced it to around 623 outlets that we have currently. And we also are members of the Universal Postal Union, which means we have a network internationally of 192 states or countries all over the world. So we have the network. In terms of the reach, we are able to reach and deliver the last mile that Kenyans require, both locally and internationally.
I'm tempted to ask, do people still have postal addresses these days? Now that we are communicating via phone, via email, WhatsApp, do they still have them and mailboxes?
For sure, I want to assure you, I think in terms of our boxes, we have 480,000 boxes across the country. And 95% of these boxes are occupied by our renters, which are our customers. And basically looking into the future, we are looking at the post office that we are going to add value to the box that you have. That if you have a box 2334, what does it mean to you in terms of providing you the last mile logistics that we require? Of course, that box should be able to identify where you are. You deliver our mail directly to where you sit. If it is at home, we'll bring it back to where you sit and also at home. So basically, Kenyans still own the box, and we encourage them to have. Now we are moving into the virtual boxes, where we want to have your mobile being your postal address. We are coming up, the Kenyan government is also coming up with a national addressing system. Under the national addressing system, we should be able to now to deliver the last mile delivery right to the doorstep of where you sit.
Now, is that number, was that the highest number that the Postal Corporation had, or the number was higher in yesteryears when there was no enough penetration of the internet?
Yeah, basically, we can say is the number has continued to remain the same, standard at 480,000. We have never lost customers in terms of the postal address. In any case, we are seeing customers coming requiring the physical boxes. That is why we are moving now into the virtual boxes, so that we can expand in terms of the reach and also enabling every Kenyan to own a box.
So currently, given the kind of technological advancement that has happened, not only in Kenya, but all over the world, what are the opportunities now that you want to explore as a corporation to ensure you remain afloat?
Yeah, the opportunities are many in terms of, the work of the Postal Corporation of Kenya is to provide logistics and the last mile logistics. The opportunities are so immense that what is available in the logistics world has been measured to be around 1.1 trillion Kenya shillings, which has not been explored. The opportunities are there. We are asking Kenyans to partner with Postal Corporation of Kenya, be it in terms of the application that we require, in terms of strategic partnership, in terms of so many, anything that you can do. We want to open the post office to Kenyans, that they can do business with it, that we can also serve Kenyans by delivering what they produce on a daily basis to the market.
Now, coming back to e-commerce, are you doing upskilling or reskilling of the workforce to ensure that even as you venture into the e-commerce or partnering with the e-commerce, they are up to the task, or they have the right skills and knowledge to undertake the task?
Yeah, when I took over as the Postmaster General, the most critical thing that we needed to look at is to look at the human resource capacity. So that human resource capacity is able to provide the required delivery with the right skills set that is required for the job. One thing that we did was to develop our HR instruments, and we got the approval from SCAC and forwarded also to the public service to ensure that the instruments that we use, the staff capacity that we have, are actually deployed in the right places to do the right jobs that they are doing. We now have an establishment of 1534, which means we have reduced the number from 23 to 1534. So what does it mean? That we are going to deploy the right staff to do the right job at the right time.
Talk about the structure of the corporation. How is it structured in terms of operations?
Yeah, in terms of operation, what we have done is we have looked at 3 business units. And that is, we have mail services. That is how it is structured. That is currently giving us roughly around 3 billion Kenya shillings in terms of revenue. We have looked at courier and e-commerce. So you talked about e-commerce. We felt that e-commerce needs to have a prominence within our structure and the human resource components. And we now have a GM in charge of courier and e-commerce. That is giving us, of course, we are projecting to have a revenue of about 1.5 billion Kenya shillings, which means that is a growth area that we are looking into. The other area we are looking at is the payment services. If you look at the Act, one of the key deliverables that we are supposed to provide is mobile services in terms of financial services, in terms of agency services. So we have a department in charge of payment services. Of late, you must have seen we are coming up with a new initiative of the Postal Pay. That is a platform of the Postal Corporation of Kenya that is going to be an alternative of the M-Pesa that we are looking at it today. So there is a lot in terms of trying to re-engineer the architecture of the human resource capacity within the Postal Corporation of Kenya to look at the three key business units that we have.
And what can you say, especially with the courier service and the mail service, what can you say so far is the impact, the overall impact of both the services to the corporation?
Now, there's been a lot of impact. One of the greatest impact we've had, if you look at the last general election, that was done under the courier department, which of course we distributed the logistics in terms of the voting materials and everything, and that gave us a revenue of 1.7 billion Kenya shillings in terms of that area. But overall, what we got from courier, we got 2.04 billion Kenya shillings. In terms of the mails, that is a traditional mail that we had before, but what we want to do is to re-engineer that aspect of the mails department so that at least we are able to be available in the market at any time that we need. For example, if you look at the stamps, of course, this is a department that handles the production of the stamps. Of course, in terms of selling, both locally and internationally, there's a key component called philately, which we really want to offer to the world, that they can buy some of the stamps that we have had over the years that we've had. Looking at the 1963 stamp, when Kenya attained independence, it is something that is in the market. People internationally like it. So that is basically what we intend to do.
It seems like you are leveling up to meet the demands of, let's say, your clientele and also the advancements in technology. But be that as it may, how is Postal leveraging the existing technology, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, to boost operations?
Yeah, thank you so much. When you look at, when Kenya Post and Telecommunication Corporation was split in 1999,
yes,
we had three entities that came up. And one of the critical areas that we left that was never considered at the Postal Corporation of Kenya is the automation part of it. And without automation, it is very difficult to move and also ensure that we serve our customers well. The world we are living in is changing very fast. That what we were thinking about yesterday is not what we will think tomorrow, because things are changing. The AI is changing the world. Of course, my ministry, through the leadership of our cabinet secretary, are coming up with a national addressing system that is able to define where you are and locate you by the streets or the physical location where we are. And that is basically where post office will be in terms of delivering to the last mile that we need.
How are we supporting the rollout of the digital infrastructure, digital communication hubs through the existing infrastructure within PCK? Yeah,
what we have done is we want to be part and parcel of changing the scope within this country in terms of reaching out and also providing opportunities to Kenyans that they can do business. And one of that critical area is providing our installations for use in the digital hubs. Of course, we have just started GPO here, which is coming up. Hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will be launching that digital hub within Nairobi. We are also coming up with one in Bungoma, where it's going to serve that part of the world in terms of providing digital jobs to Kenyans. So we are part and parcel of that initiative and joining our Cabinet Secretary to support that very important role that we are reaching out to Kenyans.
You're also involved with the Konza Technopolis?
Of course, we are doing together with Konza and CA. Of course, this is a product that is financed by CA. We are providing the installation. Konza is providing the technical know-how in terms of building that capacity.
Is international logistics part of the core strategy of enhancing your operations? And are you considering that immensely as a way to boost your revenue?
Significantly, yes. Because basically what we're looking at is logistics is a business of the post office. That is what we are supposed to do, both locally and internationally. If you look at our network internationally, we are a member of the Universal Postal Union, which means we are also dealing with all the countries of 192 countries all over the world. If you have an item in Nairobi here that needs to be moved to Sao Tome or England, we'll deliver it through the postal network that we have.
Now, even as we talk about the state of the corporation, we cannot ignore the challenges that are there and how it has been affected by the advent of new technology. What are some of the challenges that the corporation is facing today, and how do you plan to address them?
Yeah, thank you very much. In terms of the challenges, of course, there are many. There are many challenges. The first thing when I took over is I found, in terms of financial liability, to the tune of 6.9 billion Kenya shillings in terms of liability alone, which means these are things that we have been incurred over the many years since we have been in existence. And any organization that has that kind of a liability must think seriously on how we are going to restructure our system to ensure that we sort out that problem, which is a liability to the corporation. So one of the critical things that is affecting us is the issue of the pension liability. It's now currently standing at 2.7 billion Kenya shillings. We have issues to do with unlimited staff contribution to the banks and so many other things. And this is a serious impediment to the expansion of the postal industry. The other critical issue that we find as a challenge is the issue of the automation. I mentioned earlier, one of the critical aspects that was forgotten during the time of developing or evolving of the postal network is to forget the issue of automation. If we took care of automation, then we will not be where we are today. One of the other challenges that we looked at is we looked at the staff population that we have. We looked at the floated workforce that we had. Currently, we have about 2,300 of them. And as at the time that number was there, the revenues were supporting that kind of staff complements that we have. As it is today, it's not able to support. So what are we doing to address these challenges? Of course, we've come up with what we're calling it transformation of the Postal Corporation of Kenya. And one of the critical issues we are coming up with, developing a cabinet memo that will be able to speak into the challenges that we have and ensure to open up the postal network, even to other people who are able to link up with the Postal Corporation of Kenya and do business. One of the things that we are addressing is how do we address the pension liability? As management already and our board, they have already discussed and approved that yes, this is the numbers that we need. And we are addressing now in terms of the excesses so that at least we have a wage bill that we are able to sustain and to pay. The other areas that we are looking at is looking at the area of our assets. Our assets is supposed to give us up to around 10 to 15% value as opposed to what it is today. Currently, we are earning about 200 million. We are saying we need to move this one to around 400 million Kenya shillings. That is increase in revenue. The other issue is deploying this staff, because I talked about the excess staff. We deploy them in the places where they are supposed to be. And those excesses, we will look at how do we allow them to exit the organization without with the proper compensation that they are able to move.
Have there been cases where workers have complained about late payment of salaries?
For sure, I remember when I took over, we had an outstanding salary liability of 10 months. And you know, when you have a population that are not paid salary, that is the most demoralized population that you can work with. And the first thing that we were to address was to reduce the 10 months to what it is today. Of course, the business is changing. The mode of doing our business has continued to change. But our intention is to ensure that the current 2-month salary arrears that we have not paid to our staff should be sorted out in the new financial year by 1st of July going forward. There are quite a number of our businesses that we did to our customers. Some of them have not paid to the tune of about 3.1 billion Kenya shillings. This is impacting negatively on the performance of the Postal Corporation of Kenya, both in terms of compensating our employees and also in terms of providing the logistics that is required for Kenyans.
What can you say about government bringing business to the Corporation of Kenya? Has that been happening, and what has been the impact so far?
Yeah, we can say virtually the impact is great in the sense that we have virtually now signed an agreement with all the ministries and state corporations that we are providing the last mile logistics for them. The only challenge is when we require the payment of these services. We wait so long because of the budgetary allocations that they have at the Treasury and so many other issues. But basically we say that is the way to go because we are in one government. Of course, we do what we call G2G, government to government. And when we do, in terms of, you don't require a lot of procurement aspects. We can bid. Of course, the latest one we've done is for KEMSA. Now we are also intending to have a discussion with NTSA so that we can provide the last mile for the driving license and also the number plates. We are also in discussion with the Immigration Department so that we do what we call one government shop, that we can provide all the facilities within the postal network and be able to serve Kenyans.
Yes. As we come to a close, talk about the access to the utilization of the Universal Service Fund through the Communication Authority. How is that going to affect your operations?
Yeah, basically, if you look at the Act gave us the mandate through the Communication Authority that we can deliver any parcel below 350 grams. The challenge has been most of the postal networks are supposed to be opened even when it is not making any business sense. Now, if you go to a place like Uwamba, you will find a post office. If you go to a place like Lamu, you will find a post office. When it is not even making any business sense to have that postal network there, the cost of running that operation outweigh what we get from the postal network. This is something that is supposed to be financed through the Universal Service Fund, which is sitting at the CA. Now, if you look at the Act and the 1948 Charter, all Kenyans are supposed to be served, regardless of where they are, whether it's making business sense. And we are now requesting and ensuring at least that we have a discussion with CA on how they can finance some of these loss-making postal network. Because it doesn't make sense for us in terms of doing business, or we close it.
So thank you so much for making time for us. We hope to host you again here on Good Morning Kenya and talk more about the business operations within the Postal Corporation of Kenya. That is John Kipyegon Tonui, who is the Postmaster General of the Postal Corporation of Kenya, speaking to us about the state of the Postal Corporation of Kenya. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly.